Good evening, folks. How's it going? It's Monday night and I've decided to do a wee workshop, so if you're looking in, if anybody looks in, that's grand. It'll be up on YouTube at some point anyway, so you might be watching this later on. But if you are watching, I'm just going to go through one or two tunes for the William Christie collection, which is not so well known. But there is some really nice tunes in it. Quite a few of his own compositions I've never heard or already play them, and they're quite demanding in that there's a lot of unexpected stuff that can trip you up quite easily. So it's made me hate to go our tunes quite a few times. I've done 52 is there this week, so yeah, I come across a lot of interesting stuff, and that inevitably, I mean, in your life as a musician, you never go through absolutely every tune in a collection. Some folk probably do, so that's maybe not fair to say that, but certainly there's a lot of stuff that has passed me by that I've never really investigated. The Wilkins stuff obviously gets picked up on, but there's a lot of stuff that I've come across that's been not so much a revelation, but just a pleasant surprise. So William Christie is now a man that I really ken very much about. But he was a fiddler who published this collection in 1820, so he was very much around during the golden age of Scottish fiddle music, and he certainly would have been alive during Neil Gow and Nathaniel Gow's lifetime, William Marshall's lifetime, and may well have been around to have met Peter Mill. Who knows? I've no idea. I've never seen any documentary evidence. So he could well have been in company of these fiddlers, but certainly anybody who published music at that stage in 1820 was definitely at the upper end of the fiddle playing fraternity. So I'm going to go for a couple of old tunes for his collection and one tune that he wrote himself. And I'm going to start with a tune that's called The Smith, He's Black and Brucket. Now that might kind of confuse a few folk. What on earth does that mean, the smith? Well, like a blacksmith. So he's doing the smithy, chewing horses and marking nails and all sorts of things. So the smith, he's a blacksmith, working at the forge. His face is blackened by working at the forge. But Brucket, I think, and I'm fairly sure to be Brucket is to be sooty. So he's got a black and sooty face for his work. So the smith, he's black and Brucket. And this is not the type of tune you hear so very often. It's in 3/2. I mean, it's not quite so common, but there you go. But that's why I thought it was interesting. But it's certainly very accessible to players, so hopefully folk will be able to play along with this if they like. But let's just play it. I'm just going to say Shona has got a Tarlin Food and Music Festival meeting this evening, so I'm not going to ramble on, says me, who've just been rambling for 5 minutes already. But I'm going to maybe just hammer through the tunes as quick as I can. So we'll start with this, The Smith, He's Black and Brucket. And I'll just take it first time through just to let you hear it at what I would consider a fairly decent tempo for it. Very unfamiliar tune for me. It was Shona was saying, I'll look at me when I was playing, and she go, "Oh, that's a great tune, I really like this, it's one of my favourite tunes," and I'd never played it. So it almost feels like a 9/8. You could imagine them doing a 9/8 jig to that. It's got that same sort of feel. I've never heard anybody play it, so this is just my own estimation of the sort of way it would be played. So I hope it's right. I'm thinking it probably is. So anyway, let's go back to the beginning, and we're going to take it slow. and just play it through a few times. And once I've done it a few times, we'll take a little bit of a break, then come back and pick it up a little bit. Okay, so for the start, about this speed. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and. Last time. So there you go. I've no way to tell whether that's too quick, but but hopefully, I mean, there might be absolutely nobody sitting trying to play along. That's the thing. So I've no way of kenning how it's going. But that, I think, is nae a bad speed to be working on it. Highland Music Trust that publish this collection as part of their Highland collection. Now it comes in a nice, it's like a greaseproof paper wrapper to protect the cover. So you've got this bit on the outside, it's thicker than greaseproof paper, but this is the collection that Highland Music Trust. I ken it's back to front, but I can't help that. It's a really nice collection of music, like other stuff. I mean, other books are great. This has got a collection of, I don't like to say lesser composers, because it's nae that, it's just they're nae nearly so well kent, and they published less music, but there are notable and quite influential in their own way. So the composers that are contained within this collection, so it's the collections of William Christie, Isaac Cooper, Angus Cumming, Charles Grant, Donald Grant, James Henry and William Morrison. So these are all within this book here, and anything by Highland Music Trust is the style of notations are a wee bit different from the original copies, but it's beautifully clear to read and very faithful to the settings that were originally printed. So there's markings and things like this, there's turns, quite a few, which to me, because there's so many, it feels like the composer would definitely like them to be there. One thing I would say, it's up to yourself. I think this kind of ornamentation I feel is very much down to the individual rather than hard and fast rules that must be adhered to. So I would play them or nay, but in this there are quite a few, and I would certainly say in the second half it's well worth picking them out on their own and working on them. So things like, that's the turn. Quite fickery to get them all fitted in, I will say it, and that's me. I mean, I'm a professional, but I'm not going to belittle the fact that it's quite tricky to get them all fitted in. I personally wouldn't play them all, but I would play some probably just to get a flavour of it. But I find sometimes I add them in anyway, when they're not even written. So I'm not going to say you should definitely do it, but if you are, like any ornamentation, crisp, clean, articulately played, percussive really. That's really hit what you want for a turn. Nae so much of this. It's like grace notes. If they're too long, they're almost becoming melody notes. So whenever you're playing grace notes, crisp and clean, tidy notes, percussive rather than being able to actually physically hear what notes are being played. So if you're going to play this, that's all that it is. On one bow. That's what you're aiming for. Quite like if you hear really good pipers that have got other ornamentation there, it's a percussive feel you get, and they're crisp and cleanly done. It's like a wee flourish that the ear kind of hasn't got time to fasten onto. I had a piping teacher called Ian Grant, pipe major Ian Grant. I'll not start on him because I'll never get on with the tunes, but his comment has always stuck with me about playing grace notes and birls when a chanter. He says your finger should be like a whip. And to me, the fact that you can hear a whip crack is because the tip has actually broken the sound barrier. It's moving so quick that you've got this crack of sound. And to me, that was a beautiful illustration of how a description can help you visualise what you're supposed to be doing when you're playing something like this. So fingers should be like a whip when you're playing turns and grace notes. There's also quite a few dots in this reel, and I would say they tend to be where I would play them anyway, but I would tend to would hear them a wee bit more subtle. So the fact they're notated means suggesting they should definitely be there rather than playing them out equally and separate. So rather than okay, so you get the idea. Let's take it through a couple of times and then we'll move on to the next tune I'm going to play, which is the 9-pint Coggy. So we'll start through once, slow like a 4, and then second time we'll pick it up a wee bit and we'll maybe do it again. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. From what I normally would play, but it's nice to play stuff that's a wee bit different. It's good to stretch you just a little bit. And so the tunes I'm doing tonight, actually they're not tunes I can wheel. I think it's a nice thing to be able to work through tunes with folk and maybe get an insight into how I would tackle something that I can very well. The next tune, the 9 Pint Coggy, is it's an old tune. It's not one of William Christie's own tunes. I think his collection had slightly over 140 tunes, of which I think he had composed about 84 or thereabouts. So there's quite a few tunes, and they tend to be not so much other composers other than old. So they're all tunes that you would describe as being traditional nowadays, because they dick in the name. There's one or two that you do see, but on the whole, most of the tunes I've come across that are nae his are just old tunes. But this is right below the Smithy's Black and Brucket, and I just thought, actually, that's a good tune. Let's go for that. So the 9 Pint Coggy. A coggy was a drinking thing, like a big bowl, almost like a bucket, or if you halved a wee keg, a bit like that. I think, as far as I can figure it out, that's what a coggy is, and it held 9 pints. So it's like a drinking vessel, the 9 Pint Coggy. And it's a lovely tune. First time I ever played this was actually with Angus Grant. This is where I got the music for. This version is different, so I'm having to adapt it just a little bit for how I would play it, but I'll try and stick to fits on this music here. So I'll just rattle through it to let you hear it, and if it's different, well, you'll just take to be doing. Okay. Right. It's a great tune. Love that tune. It's in the Scottish violinist James Scott Skinner's collection. It's got, I suppose he considered his greatest hits were all included in it. But there's a handful of tunes. I have no idea why. There's the Marks Huntley's Farewell, and there's this scene, and then there's a couple of other tunes, and it just amazed me. Why did these particular tunes get included? Because he certainly didn't write them, but he must have held them in great esteem. So there you go, the 9 Pint Coggy. So we'll just go back, really take our time with it. There's quite a few dots in this. I think I got mixed up with the last tune in this scene about the dots, but I would tend to dot notes and add extra tails onto other notes to get accent on a Y, but this is definitely notated to be noticed. So instead of going, which is how I probably would have played it, it's more like this. And they've got a turn in there as well. Okay, so I think when it's up to speed, you probably wouldn't play that out as much. I certainly wouldn't. On the ornamentation and wee flourishes should take away from the momentum and flow of the tune. If you overburden a tune with too much, it can sound a wee bit contrived and trying to be clever, but not really making you feel like you want to get up and dance. And I think that's a key thing with this type of music, is it's dance music. It should make you want to dance. And it can be very artistic and like art music for your listening for how clever the player's been. And there's space for that, but I think it's just as a performance thing. You want folk to start tapping their feet. So then I'd be over conscious that, I must really lean into that long note there. As long as the tune flows nicely, I mean, as long as you're not brutalising the music into something completely different, there's space for your own interpretation with this sort of stuff. So if I was working on this would change over a couple of weeks quite a bit, but you would still recognise the tune very, very clearly. Okay, let's take it slowly, go through it several times at slow pace, and I'll just play it as it's written. that. I would say I probably wouldn't have naturally put so many of these turns in. Came for the period that William Christie was on the go. I mean, maybe the tunes were played a wee bit slower and they were a wee bit more ornate. I don't know, because I do get the feeling like he's got these notated in, and it would be very much how he might have played it himself. It's just my instinct for the reason for that is, but like on the ornamentation, take it or leave it, depending. Things will change depending on style and fits more in fashion. I don't think Skinner probably would have ornamented quite as much as that, because probably the reason being he'd be going far quicker playing a tune like this, and you can more speed, there is less room there is for these flourishes and ornaments. Quicker you're going, the fingers haven't got speed. I've only got so many fingers in your left hand. So anyway, there you go. Again, I'm just going to get a wee flash here. The collection it's back to front again, but never mind. The Highland Collection by Highland Music Trust, and they do mail order stuff. So here, look at their website. They've got a lot of great collections. These collections contained within here, which, as I said, were William Christie, Isaac Cooper, Angus Cumming, Charles Grant, Donald Grant, James Henry and William Morrison are these smaller collections of composers who are not quite so well kent. Somebody like Charles Grant was a pupil of William Marshall, and probably his best pupil, and he wrote some lovely tunes, but one in particular, Mrs. Jemieson's favourite, is very, very well known, and it's Ain Wright, but you'd probably find that a lot of folk would struggle to name another of his tunes. So this collection's got a lot of really nice stuff in it that otherwise you're looking at probably having to get your hands on an original copy, which I've never seen an original copy of one of these collections, apart from Charles Grant, because I've got it. So there you go. Right, let's go through this 2 or 3 times, and we'll maybe pick it up each time. You can ornament it as you like. Let's see a go. Go. So that's a couple of old tunes. When they were written, well, your guess is as good as mine. But for this type of stuff, I would say certainly 1700s, some of them even late 1600s, a lot of this type of tunes were being written. If they've got old in them, you sometimes found that folk like this, they were considered old when they composed them. So who knows how old it is. Anyway, going to go on to one of Mr. Christie's own tunes. William Christie's collection has a lot of his own stuff, over 80 tunes. I think there's 84 of his own compositions. He come frae Cumiston. It's up towards Turriff, so very much up in Buchan in Aberdeenshire. And if you didn't kind of come frae, if you went through his collection, you'd probably have a fair idea of what district he was frae, because the tunes that he's written are related to folk frae his own bit of the world. And I mean, there's a tune to do with Gameray, there's Ochray, if it's Clarniston, I'm not sure that's right though, but Clermiston, that's further south, anyway, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to play a slow strathspey anyway, so they're potentially the trickiest things to get right. They've got the character of a strathspey, but the feeling of a slow air, and the tempo can vary. So it's bringing out the character, but laying on the emotion. So that's a very personal thing, but there's a few things we can do, and capturing the right sort of feel is the first thing. So staccatoed bows, up-driven bows, pull out the long notes, keep the short notes short. Tends to be like a slow air, works in phrases, could be 2-bar phrases or 4-bar phrases. Within that, there should be ebb and flow dynamics, so it gets louder and pushes and then pulls back, it's coming to the end of the phrase or indeed the measure. So that's the sort of thing. Did you catch that? So it's a slow strathspey, so let's just fire in. Keep up if you can. I've got a couple up-driven bows we'll look at separately and on their own in a wee while. But I'm going to push and pull it a fair bit, so see how you get on. I recorded it a couple of days ago, and when I played that sounds familiar, so I think I've heard this before. I don't think I tell you the title. This is called Mr. Gillen's Strathspey. So it could well have been an ancestor of Ian Gillan, who's the lead singer for Deep Purple. Could be, who knows? Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter whether he is or no, but I think it's a lovely tune. It's a kind of tune that it's maybe just got that kind of melody that sounds familiar. I've written tunes like that myself. I think I might have heard that before and I've just regurgitated it, but you can fit. It's maybe just such a lovely tune. He's played it, but I don't think I can recall hearing anybody playing at a concert, but I might be wrong, but it should be, because it's a lovely melody. So let's go back again. So if you're paying attention, the kind of things to listen for, and I'm not just saying this applies to my playing. You can only good players that you listen to how they play slow strathspeys or indeed slow airs, how the tempo gets pulled about, because it's a solo thing. It's not something you play for dancing. It's a listening piece, and it's for players to just express their musicality. And so you listen to it like you would listen to a singer. Now the fiddler hasn't got lyrics, but what they've got is dynamics and light and shade, ebb and flow. So that's very much doing the player to express that. So 10 players could play this tune slightly differently, phrase it differently, and every one of them could be right. On the other side of the coin, you could have 10 players who are Maccapigsy wrote, who are playing all the right notes and tune, but it just sounds wrong. Slow strathspeys can be just like any strathspey can be played for dancing to up tempo, but really you strip out all the character. I hate it when I hear a well-kent slow strathspey played for dancing, because it just feels wrong. Now, of course you can, so you can please yourself, but for me it really is something. It's a solo thing. And it's the same like hearing slow airs played for dancing. Like, would be the best kind of example might be. Farewell to Whiskey by Neil Gow. But for a lot of folk, this is how they would probably ken it. Yeah, it was the Real Blend theme tune for Robbie Shepherd on BBC Radio Scotland. And it works perfectly well, actually. But to me, if you ken it as a slow air, it's just a wee bit... yeah, I prefer it if you didn't do that. It's just my personal taste. But Slowster Space, I like to hear them played as Slowster Space. But they're tricky to play. I think I've mentioned this in numerous times when I've been judging competitions. The Slowster Space, the most common thing for players to misjudge, and you'll tend to hear more than anything else, is them played like slow airs. So too slow, and near enough Strathspey character. So you've got the mind in your head, it's a Strathspey. Okay, let's try it again, and then we'll have a look at the up-driven bows. Go. What do you think of that? Let me know what you think. I think it's a lovely tune. I've got marked in 2 sets of up-driven bows, and to be honest, you could put more in, but I think sometimes you can overdo it, overburden the tune. Because you can add up-driven bows doesn't mean you necessarily should. But that again is a personal taste thing. But it adds a nice touch. It's a unique feel you get. And you need to use the Hale bow. There's 3 ups in one bow. Between the second up and the third up, you have to lift the bow and come in and catch the last note right at the heel for it's as tight as it is in the Hale bow, actually up here, and it really bites in. And that last note, I would say it's almost more like a percussive note, extremely short but really, really clearly heard. So, that's it. So it comes through clear but very, very short. That's kind of what you're looking for. So he's been good enough to add in a turn there. So that's how I would play that, to be honest. Now, I don't feel like there's a rush to that. A lot of folk that they try to do, they're finding it a bit intimidating, and it runs a waff of them. Take your time. But you've got to get that space between the second and third. That sense of lift. It's the up-driven bow. It gives a tremendous lift and drive to the music. So there's no point in playing it like this. No, I played that with the same bowing as how I play it, but in a totally different style. That delivery doesn't add any drive at all. So this is what you're looking for. Where you can't staccato. You get the idea? coming up. You hear it there? That's two open E's together. First up, second up. They're going to be just one note if you didn't split them up. So you must add a grace note or split it with a staccato. So the pace goes right back on. So you didn't go, and then whew, so that bow is going right to the heel with some speed. I add a grace note as well, actually, to be quite honest. That's tricky because you've got a snap bow for the D string across to the E, and you kind of touch the A, so you should be trying to avoid it. It's fairly tricky, actually. I mean, I don't really think about it, to be honest now, but playing a snap bow while missing a string actually is it's quite a leap to get across there for there to there without touching the middle string. It takes a wee bit of practice, because it can't be only less snappy. Every snap has to maintain the snappiness. That's what's called snap bowing. You can't have something that nae as good because it's a bit harder to play. You can do that, but I would say practice a bit harder and make sure that every one of them is good, every up-driven bow. So like this. And here's a series of snaps. So coming up to the end of the tune, it's slowing down. It's a bit like a slow air, slowing down as you come to the end, and you can just feel it kind of relaxing and a nice elegant finish to that. So so the bow and control comes out just like a slow air. The player is quite exposed, or the bow control is quite exposed, because you've got long controlled notes, things like this. You've also got the difficulties of spay bowing, but then in a kind of slow tune, so that they're kind of even more, the sense of style and character is heightened by the slow strathspey. So I love them, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. You'll rarely ever hear a slow strathspey at a session in a pub. A lot of players don't really play them like slow strathspeys. The reason being, I mean, you have to persevere. You need to work at it. Playing up-driven bows means you've got to really master some finer bowing points, and it's well worth doing, because actually getting a lot out of this music, if you're never going to play a slow strathspey, it's a huge kind of part of the Scots fiddle tradition that you're going to miss out on. So I would say practice and try them. I could sit and play them all night and never get bored, but that's just me. Maybe I'm an oddity these days. Well, some would say that I'm definitely an oddity regardless of my fiddle playing, but there you go. Let's go back. I'm going to play it through once more, and then I think that'll be me. Okay, I can see we've still got 8 folk. Yeah, that's great, thank you very much. Right, Mr. Gillen's strathspey. 2, 3. said earlier, I mean, I didn't really ken this tune. There's me doing a workshop on it, but it's not a tune I'm that familiar with, because it's not that well I can tune. But I'm already feeling, just played it through 2-3 times the other night and a few times a couple of days ago, that actually that's a tune I could really get my teeth into. I can feel it already just changing and developing and becoming more settled. So that's a tune that's going into my repertoire. So yep, get your hands on a copy of the Highland Collection by Highland Music Trust. There's some fantastic tunes in it, and a lot of stuff that's a wee bit less well kent. So yeah, Highland Music Trust, do a lot of good. Mail order, they'll send you a copy. So if you've enjoyed it and you feel like it, certainly quite happy for folk to send stuff into the tip jar, which is www.paypal.me/Paul Anderson Shona Dawn. And but if you didn't, that's alright. Thanks for looking in. This is Monday night, Friday night. Be live for the lounge 52 for Way Shona. And myself, obviously, but we may hear Roderick looking in to help. Who knows what he's feeling like. But I think he's got the entertainment bug, so we might have Roderick as well on Friday. We'll wait and see. But it'll be our 51st live for the lounge since we locked down pretty much about a year ago. So thanks for looking in. Bye. I might do one of these next week. I might nay. We'll just see. I'll post something. And if anybody wants to look in, fine. I certainly will post it in to YouTube tonight, so that if you want to go and look through the tunes that I've worked on, you can go over stuff and look at the up-driven bows and things like that. Good for you playing. If you play Scottish stuff, up-driven bow is this stuff. Right, have a good night, take care, and we'll see you later, folks. Cheerio.